All right, we are live. So today, Jim Manning here, another Doors to Deals episode. And I have Jordan March on the line. And unfortunately, Caleb's out sick. So Caleb, Jordan and I kind of became friends at a networking event. And I got to tell you guys, I have never met someone that has been so randomly in tune with me in my life than Mr. Jordan March. Like, I'd have to go to my room and I'd run into him. I'd have to, anywhere I went, it was like he was like following me or I was following him. I'm not sure which, but we probably randomly ran into each other at least 20 times. And then at some point we were like, okay, we need to be friends. So here we are.
Like, wake up, go to breakfast, midnight snack, go for a quick swim. It's like he's just standing there.
He's
like
always there.
that prom dance look.
That's right.
Will it be you?
That's right. So, oh man, we had a good time. But okay,
yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah. So, Jordan, why don't you kind of just brief background about yourself, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, Jordan March, New York native. I run a real estate team here in New York. Focus on luxury sales. I work with Ryan Serhant, who became popular from $1 Million Listing, and he started his own new brokerage. So I've been heavily involved with the development of that brokerage, scaling it along with my team, taking a little less of a corporate role as I've done from before. I've been in the business now 15 years. I started in about 2007-8 in a boutique brokerage in Manhattan. And over 15 years have worked on everything from small teams to managing brokerages to even being a chief of strategy and managing director of a brokerage that was in the top 10 growing brokerages in Manhattan and was also number one in retention for a few years. Also was recognized by Inc. 5000 as being top 5,000 companies in the country for scaling over 2 consecutive years. And I've been exposed to a variety of obstacles and topics and skills and skill sets and just creating a new sort of dynamic on how I use all these experiences to scale and grow my business in the future. I've managed over 700 agents and trained them as well, as additional to hiring. And now I'm the coach for Sell Like Serhant. So Ryan Serhant has a educational community with over 12,000 brokers worldwide. And I'm a coach for this community, working in, everybody from beginners to some of the top luxury brokers in the world. And am a emerging fund manager. So keeping myself busy, musician on the side, dad of 2. And I wouldn't even like to say on the side, musician at night, right? We still have 24 hours to conquer our day. So
aren't you doing something like a song with like a famous artist, or what were you telling me? Am I remembering that? Or was that like an acting gig?
I'm working on I'm in a collaboration EP with a gentleman called Pitt the Kid right now, and I'm featured on a song with Lil Wayne, Trippie Redd,
that's what it is,
and Busta Rhymes. And I'm working on my own project, which I have, if anybody follows rap, Corey Guns, who's on Among You for a while, the late Fred the Godson, who actually passed during COVID, but God bless his soul, and a lot of other surprises that are in the works. So it is a very real thing, but real estate keeps me up, keeps the bills paid. And I thoroughly enjoy it, but then I challenge everyone to start, looking at other areas they can grow in their lives. Like, your favorite billionaire has a ton of different, sources of income. And I say you should have a few sources of income and sources of happiness, So I definitely stay committed to that path as well, and seeing how things bubble, and, we'll get there, we'll cross the bridge when we get there, like I like to say.
Man, you do like to keep busy. So, where do I start with this? So many things to talk about. One quick other question as far as background goes. On the investing side of things, have you done any or not? Has it been more on like just the luxury agent side of things?
My investments have been more around Airbnbs. So that looks like, getting a master lease and then being able to sublet it. I've worked heavily with institutional investors and investors of all walks of life to give you the scope of like what I'm doing. My last listing that I listed last week at 845 United Nations Plaza, that's a $15.5 million listing. I listed a townhouse at 310 East 69th Street in Manhattan. That's at $7 million. I'm listing a multifamily on the Upper West Side on 91st Street as we speak. I have 2 listing appointments today. So I work heavily with an investor group audience and a lot, obviously, with single family buyers in the luxury segment. And my investments have been more like Airbnbs, grabbing a lease, maximizing, the profitability through doing some small renovations, for top of the line furnishings, putting maybe a full suite of high-end appliances in there, but putting it back on the market and doing the Airbnbs. I love the cap rate plays for Airbnb, and I love the non-commitment with sometimes having a master lease as far as not having to leverage the same amount of capital for down payments. In New York, 20% is very custom, and the average home price is 1.3, 1.4. So, having that liquid free to be able to leverage to do other things. But then additionally is I just love like some of the flexibility that you have with Airbnbs. And in New York, I mean, it's just incredible. The amount of profit you can yield if you do it the right way.
So New York's a different beast, right?
Yeah.
All right. So talk to me a little bit on like the master lease structure of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Give me a little bit more info on that.
Yeah, well, essentially you get yourself into like a long-term lease, just based on jurisdiction and, whatever local laws that your city and stuff. So I want to be very sort of clear on this, right? Like this was at a time where New York didn't have as much, restraints around Airbnbs. But essentially what we do is we negotiate a lease, get into a long-term term, and then we looked at areas that are having the best traffic, the best headlines. So we're looking at areas that are just dominated by tourists, but then even taking a step forward, areas that have, populace that, have the high yield and rents on average. And we find that also correlates to the highest hotel rates. But between furnishing, a listing, creating personnel to be able to manage it. So I did it all hands free. We had about 2 to 3 cleaning ladies. We had 1 service guy that would be in there every 2 months, and then even one that would handle administration with bookkeeping. So creating a team that works. The bookkeeping, my accountant was able to help out with a lot of it, and then I set up a lot of just ways to help with me with just handling my balance book and accounting. So just withdrawals and deposits. But I find just having the nimbleness of having even a handyman come in every 2 months, sometimes you may find something that's broken in your house, needs to get fixed. You want to be ahead of that because that can obviously, impact profits. And if you're not able to book and get those days booked, the loss can be, really impactful for your overall monthly profits. So we look at how do we be as nimble and as lean as possible, but then as agile to handle any problems that may happen in a listing.
Gotcha. So you're leasing. So you're not actually buying the real estate. You're just leasing it, and then you're turning around and turning it into Airbnb.
Right.
So what's the what type of out of pocket when you do the lease structure does the homeowner want from you?
So in New York, you're only now allowed to do first and security.
Okay.
Right. I would say be as forthright with the landlord, or if you're doing a commercial, just be as forthright about your intentions. I think that's important. And then obviously follow any state or local laws that you may have to submit to. For us in New York, they like more long-term leases. So now it's over 29 days It allows it to be legal. It seems like there's more flexibility around roommate scenarios. So if you're doing room rentals inside of an Airbnb, but out-of-pocket expenses were just like your rent, your security, and then ultimately furnishing the home, which I tell people that's where you can really create a lot of value. So reference Architectural Digest, reference a lot of the interior design inspiration magazines, and get a sense of what's trending, because that's what's going to convert to luxury. You're right. It's like the location you're in, of course, your fixtures and your appliances, but then, even if you don't, it doesn't necessarily, you say if I have a white kitchen versus stainless steel, it doesn't necessarily impact my daily pricing if the space is very functional, has all the furniture that I would expect to have. And then taking the step forward, like, are you looking for an audience that may be doing work at home? So I got work at home space, right? We put double wide monitors on our listings. We made sure that we have fast Wi-Fi. On top of that, just getting the best, furnishings. Again, don't just say, okay, what's the bare minimum I can put in here? Really, maybe get an interior designer or somebody who does staging and see if they would give you any style tips, because that's what really brings the home to life. And that character and that personality is what's going to convert in pictures and really, sort of have that conversation for you as they're clicking through a dozen listings and looking to decide on yours versus someone else's. So you really want to make sure that you also have the best, photography. I would even go a step further in videography for Airbnb. So you just present it as you would any other luxury listing that's out, but I put the best pictures. I wouldn't do it with an iPhone. I know a lot of people get away with that. Take $200 or $300 or whatever it is and get a professional photographer in there and take another few $100 and you may want to do a home tour, because you never know what people may look for. As a parent, proximity of bedrooms are important, right? Like I wouldn't want to have my kids on one floor. I'm on one floor and my kids are on another floor, right? Is there a washer and dryer in the unit? How fast, how far away are things? I think, you want to be able to sell the home without obviously having a conversation. So that comes with, you really using video marketing and positioning it the best way with the photos, and even going a step forward in your ad copy and your descriptions. What kind of nuanced information can you offer the person around, the closest bus, what they can get nearby, what restaurants are nearby. I find if you go the extra mile for TLC, you'll always get good results, right? Like not just cleaning the linens, but maybe you write a handwritten note, or you tell a cleaning lady, write a handwritten note for them, leave them a piece of chocolate, right? I would even laminate things that are going on in the neighborhood so they didn't have to guess where to go, right? So as soon as they get in, they get a laminated guide. Here's your Wi-Fi. You don't need to be texting me to get access. Here's what's going on in the neighborhood. And that you do it once, you keep it forever, right? But then people see that you're just going the extra mile, all right? And then just checking in with them, making sure that they're good. But out of pocket, it's very, very low expense to get in this business and to make it work. You just have to really look at, what type of laws you should be able to be observant of. And then of course, what markets are hot and bustling, as far as tourism is concerned.
How long have you been doing them for?
Almost, I want to say 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you gotten to a happy place as far as total unit count, or are you looking for more as well? Or hey guys, for those of you that are local to St. Louis, I wanted to make sure you knew about an amazing resource that we have to help do some extra deals. You can email our team at deals@3doors.com. And just so you know, we do deals with other investors all the time. Like it's been hundreds and hundreds over the years, and we've averaged over 100 deals with other investors per year for over the last 5 years. We can straight up buy the deal if you have a wholesale under contract that you want to sell. If you need funding to finance a flip, or like you're doing a BRRRR strategy, we have funding available for you. If you're trying to wholesale a deal, we're doing JV wholesale deals with other wholesalers that, quite frankly, some of the deals we're putting together for a beginner or an intermediate investor, they'd probably be walking away from, because we have systems and processes and we have buyers in place that are paying top dollar for these properties. So make sure you use this resource. And the best way to get and the easiest way is to just send us an email, deals@3doors.com. All right, back to the episode. Have you gotten to a happy place as far as total unit count, or are you looking for more as well? Or
yeah, so I've let a few go over the years just because of some of the jurisdiction of what's been going on. So I've let a few go, but that's the beauty of it, right? Like no harm, no foul. It's not like I bought a home to then convert it to an Airbnb, and now I have to just only do a standard monthly rental with a long-term tenant. You find the short-term leases are able to yield the best profit, even though they have the biggest liabilities. So yeah, I'm looking to scale. I think just doing it the right way. For me, peace of mind is the most important thing. You want to feel like people just have the best stay. So really vetting the space. Is there any additional security? Is it the right property? Is it close to transportation? Is it just something that is very foolproof to be able to handle seasonality, right? So you want to look at all those factors and ultimately make a decision. But I more am looking to do a scalable model of it. So right now I'm raising money on a tower in New York that's going to be 330 units, so to speak. And that will be a legal Airbnb of the highest level of furnishings, and then really to more a longer term corporate crowd that may, transition from Airbnb, but may want to stay under 6 months in the city. We find that there's not a lot of inventory for short-term stays outside of hotels and then your long-term stay. The short-term leases are not, in surplus as some of the other inventory you may find. So I think it's a really good gap in the market right now in New York that we're looking at. And I'm partnering with a guy who has 2,000 doors, who does, his own furnished sort of habitat Airbnb style business, and being able to scale that with our model of, marketing and positioning it on the market.
So it feels like you have like an intelligence around like kind of getting the right team members in place. And you just kind of mentioned, hey, and I got this partner that's, has done this 2,000 times. And what did you say earlier? You mentioned something about managing over 700 agents and scaling a top 500 team, or I forget what number you mentioned. But,
yeah, Inc. 5,000. Yeah.
5,000. Oh, excuse me. So, talk to me about like what goes on in your head, like when you're looking to build out a new opportunity or set up the right team to do something special. Like how do you go about that?
I think with a team, you want to feel like you're not always the smartest guy in the room. And then when I look at it, there's a few things, right? So one is you want to be able to really itemize and get a real clear list of what everyone's roles and responsibilities will be. It's very important, right? Because even just the fact that you can do everything doesn't mean you should be or you want to be. You want to be able to scale based on processes and then ultimately where money's coming in from. So if it's, real estate, right, there is a proportionate amount of leads that are associated with every new hire. I find a lot of companies, they hire too quick, or a company that's scaling, they're paying too much, right? So is it because what happens is your biggest expense after the first, your first capital expenses, you get an office space, you have business, you have legal, is really coming down to how much you're paying salaries, unless you're coming and going in the business. Then if you're going into business, is it very clear on the governance and how these roles will be carried out and what the execution is? Because just the idea is only one thing, and the execution is a completely different thing. And I've worked with some people that I worked with people who I love. They have great ideas. They have great feedback. They may even have done well in their past experiences, but as a business owner, their execution may be flawed, right? So that's something that you got to be really, really keen on looking out for. And just like kind of the ethics of the person too, right? I really look at, how fast do they respond to, to business, to inquiries? Are they on top of things? Which is still an ethical thing for me to feel like we're not dragging things out, right? Are you, someone who's very punctual, but not only punctual early, you're going the extra mile, and then someone that's very forthright about the information. You find that people do like to bend things a lot. So I look for that. And then I have even people who I hire, I do a DISC assessment, DISC assessment, because that'll give me a sense of what some of their strengths and weaknesses are. So I'll not put somebody in a role or function that ultimately does not complement their strengths or may really focus on what they're really not strong or excited about. So I want to make sure that you're already excited about what you're doing. It's not just an opportunity to make money. You're very forthright about how you're doing. You're very punctual in the way that you're doing things. And then are you an expert or seeking to be an expert in the space that you have conveyed to me that you're proficient in handling, right? So then I have to do a lot of digging into someone's resume, someone's expertise, looking at references, and not like, let me call your reference and have a 5-minute like horrible conversation, but ask the reference kind of questions that would set them, that allow them to have a little bit more of an open-ended answer. How would you describe this person? Rather than would you see them as being a very early person, right? And then finding out ultimately like what may hurt you in the future, right? I think when you set up a clear compliance structure of roles and responsibilities and what execution looks like, even if you're off a bit, once you have that written down, it's a lot easier to work within. And then looking at areas that once you really have a clear description, how do we scale that now? What do 2-3 person of you look like in the case that you need to self-replicate? Because any business has that. And have you dealt with those type of questions? Because a lot of people don't want to, get rid of any, give up any power, right? Or perceived power for the sake of another manager coming in and having ideas. So the ability to be collaborative as you scale. Like a lot of people are not able to scale because it's just within them that they want to be able to hold on to everything. In one of my previous ventures, there's a guy who did recruiting and he did managing sales and he did marketing. He loved them all. But then there was a bottleneck because there's only so much that you're able to take on your own without having separate arms. Does that mean that the recruiter may not have been as strong as he felt because he was an experienced manager in real estate and managing talent for umpteen years and may see something else? That may be the scenario. But then we need to extract as much as we can from that person's understanding how to make the best decisions, and then standardize it in a manual, or some level of policy to make sense of what those, whether it's procedural or what those decisions will look like, and how we derive at the decision based on some of the previous notes of what's in our policy or guides.
So Jordan, you're really kind of bothering me right now because I keep trying to put you in like a box of what your skill set is, and then you like keep saying things that are like whoa, so I'm trying to figure out like kind of like your unique genius zone, or like what you're really good at, and setting up the processes and the manuals and things like that. Like a lot of times there are people that can do both, by the way. Sure. More of like an integrator type of skill set, and like really running and executing. And then but then also you have all these great ideas too, right? Like the space in New York, like that project that you're working on as well. Like, where do you fall in the line? Like historically, like what type of roles have you been doing when it comes to like execution versus like the strategy?
So I fell into strategy just through necessity. I was always in sales management. And, so that's a lot of just biz dev. And in any business, right, sales are what's going to drive the organization. But there's a strategic side of it. So we're not just doing more busy work. So in one venture for LG Fairmont, that was a company that was recognized through the Inc. 5000. And there I was a managing director, but it really turned into a strategy role because there was so much data that helped us create, numerous iterations of how we're going to manage a company, whether we're looking for a certain person that we're going to be hiring based on skill sets. So we may say, listen, we want to make sure every one of our brokers have a bachelor's degree. right? But we've seen that was a bottleneck based on the amount of applicants. We have a lot of people that get a license and may have come with other, from other industries, have been already successful. So we have to create additional parameters to get a larger recruit pool. And then based on that, have we set them up with the systems and a way for us to check in with them. So there is strategy that has to go in with execution through sales, because sales is strategy. Sales is being able to, get in there, find out what your problems or issues in the market and what problem that you're solving, right? And then your salesmen are executing, right, that solution. But essentially, it still comes from higher level CEOs and whoever's deriving it, saying this is the problem in the market that we're continuing to communicate or push, and this is the solution that we're continuing to push, right? And so I think there's a element of being able to step back and say, how do we do this better, just by looking at metrics. So for instance, the sales in a sales organization, I could see conversions. How many calls, appointments, showings is someone on as a manager? And then what does that look like as far as their conversion rates? How are they actually bringing in business, and what does the bottom line number look like? But then the strategy may say, okay, great. You know what? You're not able to book enough appointments because you've been on appointments that you can't be in your phone to book appointments. So is there technology that I can do to help you automate booking? So I look at technology. How does technology allow us to really accelerate our strategy and the growth of our strategy, right? And then if there's not some technology for it, then of course we may need to add additional personnel, but that may cost us more than just an off-the-shelf SaaS solution, right? Having a Calendly versus having a Calendly, which everyone knows it's helping you book up your appointments, versus having an executive assistant at your email, at your helm, calling and booking those appointments. One, I pay a monthly fee. The other has to factor into, how we really look at our profit margins, because there's another salary that may happen because I'm not able to, get through this bottleneck of booking appointments, right? So that's just one small example. But I think whether it's marketing, is there hiring somebody in-house, or hiring, or is there anything that you could be doing on your own, right? Through better technology that now you don't have to have a graphic designer because you have Canva, or you have these other, solutions that have templates and everything built out, and say, you know what, we're going to take it marketing in-house, or we're going to have our executive assistant trained up on doing basic marketing instead of having an entire marketing arm. So again, I'm going in various examples, but I think each company can look at their various departments and seeing how do they dial down, how do they get as lean as possible with talent, how to have the most important talent, of course, that you're paying premium dollars for, but then how do we use technology and so on to not say replace some people, but be able to scale so that we're focused on putting our money towards personnel where we really need it. So my strong suits would be biz dev and that high level strategy.
I love it. That's fantastic, man. So one more time, you mentioned if people wanted to get a hold of you, you're working with a coaching program, or
So Sell It Like Sirhands. We're 12,000 agents worldwide. It gives everyone an opportunity to, one, learn from the best. You're learning directly from Ryan Serhant and people like myself, all agents who have done well over $100 million in business each year and have very profitable businesses. And I've seen it all, right? Like, these are teachers because we've seen things in various markets. I started in the recession. We're entering another one, right? Like, these are agents that have been through the ebbs and flows of the business. So they're going to give you a lot of best practices on getting through them and some things you can adapt in your business. But then learning from Ryan Serhant, he's doing billions of dollars in sales a year. He is one of the best branding, and also not only branding agents, but he's one of the best people at maximizing time management. He's like so good at this. And that's a big part of scaling, is how effectively am I using every minute of the day to get the most amount of juice or money through each dollar, of each minute that I'm spending. So his program they talk about everything from digital media to sales, best practices, all the way to scaling your business and best practices in doing so. And I'm just so fortunate enough to be behind that. And it's a great community for whoever's looking for that really good push, looking for some accountability, and ultimately looking to really take charge of their brokerage business. And yeah, that's you can find me on Instagram @ it's Jordan March, or just it's Jordan March. Really simple on Instagram.
All right, on. Well, hey, I appreciate it. Last question for you.
Sure.
5 years from now, what has happened? Where do you see yourself at?
Hopefully, I would have had to, develop this project that I'm working on, right? Because it's going to be a 3-4 year build. So seeing this project really run well. Projects. I love real estate. I love, as I said, tourist cities. So looking at really scaling development in some of those areas that I just love to go. That's what driven the passion is the places I love to get vacations in, and saying, wow, I'd love to stay here forever. It's like, well, let's figure out how to do so, right? And that's by starting a business in the area. I'll have a little bit of, connection to that neighborhood or wherever it is. Having music grow, putting my kids, through, they would be in junior high to high school almost, and just keeping the same, staying happy, staying healthy, continuing to learn. I really place a lot of importance on learning. It's not just doing, especially as we've now left postgraduate school or graduate school or undergrad or whatever anyone's highest level of education was. Sometimes we don't have that outlet to just always be reading and absorbing in a very, curriculum-based sort of fashion. So I set those curriculums for myself. I'm always investing in myself. I'm always growing. So those are my 3 things. And then other than that, as long as I keep doing that same thing over and over, I'm happy.
Right on, man. Well, I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, Jim. Really appreciate hanging out with you guys today.
That's a wrap, guys. For additional resources, go to doorstodeals.com. And don't forget, we're already generating over $186,000 per month in passive income for people in our world. And we're just getting started, and we can help you out as well. So if you want to grow your passive income, we have multiple options available. The first step is for us to get to know each other better. Give us a call or send us over a text message at 314-310-4886 to get started. And finally, go out, live your purpose, and above all else, go after your dreams. Till next time. Thanks for tuning into this show. For more episodes and resources that will unlock doors to deals, check out our website, doorstodeals.com.